your game plan for retirement with Northwestern Ohio's resource for that common sense approach to planning for your money, your investments, your financial and retirement future. He is Chris McIntire, president and founder of McIntire Retirement Services. And Chris, it is always a pleasure to have you here on the program.
Hey, nice to be with you today. Hope everybody's doing well.
And we're going to be talking about a lot of information, important changes for the upcoming year, how to get a handle on your finances before the end of the year, and the number one most important factor in your retirement success. So a lot of ground to cover. Want to get right to it, but don't want to also miss the opportunity to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that Chris McIntire is your resource. 4 offices conveniently located across Northwestern Ohio. If you've got financial planning needs, if you've got retirement planning needs, if you are looking for a review and assessment of your investment portfolio, Chris McIntire is here to help and assist, and will help you assess the investments that you hold, the positions, the accounts, the fees that you're paying, the risks that you're taking, how to properly structure that plan, all that goes into a truly comprehensive financial and retirement planning picture. So pick up the phone and give a call if you'd like to take advantage. 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. 800-868-1194. Chris, to start out with, I mean, we are in the midst of the frenzy of the holiday season. For a lot of people, this is a time where the budget gets blown, spending can get out of whack, and we can go into debt. All things that we want to try to avoid if possible. Planning proactively is the key here.
Yeah, it sure is. And, after the Thanksgiving holiday there, they were talking about what the blowout on Friday was, the Black Monday, that it exceeded even the expectations. And, even the fact that people are getting behind on credit card debt and everything, I've been telling clients going into this, I'm like, look, nobody's pulling back just before Christmas. They may have overspent all summer long, but they're not going to spend at Christmas. They may slow down significantly into 2024, but, let's hope this Santa Claus rally continues to run. November was a very rewarding month. After August, September, and October were very depressing months. I think, I needed some counseling there after you watch that happen for a while. So thankfully, we had a nice November, and we're hoping that that trend continues and the recovery broadens out. And Peter, part of this is, the record amount of money that people have sitting on the sidelines. And I mean investors. I don't mean your normal, talk about people up on the economic rung of the ladder a little bit, in, that there is a lot of money in money market accounts and whatnot. So the fear of missing out could certainly, add a little more fuel to this fire. And I'll use the word potentially, of course.
And Chris, we know that spending throughout the holiday season, that can boost the market. However, the hangover, if you will, into the new year, a lot of people deal with the credit card debt and a little bit of pain and regret. And that is when spending oftentimes pulls back.
Yeah, no question about it. And we would certainly anticipate that going into 2024, the effect of the interest rate increases and whatnot. And, now the talk has been here lately toward the end of November. There was the potential for interest rate cuts going into 2024, maybe even as early as the first quarter. So, that's been a refreshing, helped with a refreshing recovery in the bond market. So for the more conservative investors out there, you've been watching those bond prices increase, which has been very nice as well. So, a rising tide lifts all boats. Let's hope it continues to come in.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, everything being cyclical, we saw the tech sector in 2022 have such an awful year, and then it came rip-roaring back in the first half of 2023. The news was that, 7 to 10 companies really accounted for the entire recovery that we saw in the market. And then we did enter into those few painful months there as we turned the corner into the second half of 2023. But we also have seen that recovery broaden out. And that was what accounted for a lot of that November rally that we saw when we saw more than just that select concentrated handful of companies begin to really move and recover.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And for the average listener out there, there are growth stocks. That's like Amazon, Apple, Google, Meta, Facebook. Those are growth stocks. There are value stocks, which would be companies that are very well run, but trading well below where they should be. And you would have certainly thought that 2023 would have been a value year because of what happened in 2022, but it was certainly led by the growth stocks once again. And, we'll see what happens into 2024. If they cut some interest rates there, then that could shift things back over into the dividend payers should recover as well. So it's kind of neat to watch it ebb and flow here a little bit. And that's why you have a diversified portfolio, right? You never know which one's going to start running and how fast they run. You got to, spread a little bit out into all of those baskets, if you will, growth, value, income, even in the bond side of things, you could go high yield, corporate bonds, and even some government bonds, and, a number of different ways that we help clients achieve that.
And Chris, you've also mentioned for the past several months, this change in interest rate. While it caused some short-term pain in the markets and with bonds, it also has many inherent advantages for proactive savers and investors, even those that maybe want to decrease risk, but are looking for something that is a little bit more stable and predictable moving forward, even if that is not a long-term solution. Taking advantage of these higher interest rates may be an advantageous move right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You pick up some nice yield anymore, and help you combat the inflation element that's out there. And it's very refreshing. Heck, we've been, using money market accounts at 5%, buying CDs, buying fixed annuities north of 5%, all year long. And, for your more conservative investor, many of them are happy to do that without taking risk of what the market can do.
Well, again, if you have questions, if you would like to take a look at your portfolio, if you'd like to see what maybe these higher interest rates could do for your outlook, pick up the phone, give a call to Chris McIntire, McIntire Retirement Services, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. Chris, for the holiday season, oftentimes we run through those tips of what to do, what not to do, proactive tips to stay in good financial shape. As I'm reading through it, I find that there's a remarkable parallel to what you talk about with retirement planning as well, not just for a season, but for the duration of retirement, setting a budget, sticking to it, do your best to avoid impulse buys. If you are going to be shopping for big ticket items, do it as early as possible, shop around for deals, maybe opt for homemade or handmade gifts. Maybe the equivalent there for retirement would be staycations or local vacations, not always the grand global world cruise or anything like that. The gift of experiences. All of these things not only help during the holidays, but would help long-term for your total financial well-being in retirement as well.
Yeah, without question there, Peter. And, Robin and I have our eyes on a couple of things that we would like to do or like to purchase. And we're going to wait until after the holidays and think there'd probably be some pretty steep discounts maybe into January, February of next year. And, for those of you that do like to do some traveling, they're predicting that travel is going to be very, very robust into 2024. So, you might not, you have to shop around, see if you can get some good values on some of that. The airlines are, it's crazy expensive anymore. We have a lot of folks up here, obviously, that want to snowbird and fly down to Florida and back. You used to be able to do that for a couple $100, and now it's $400 or $500, to sit in the middle seat and in row 40 into Punta Gorda on a Tuesday. That's that's not a fun thing to do, but it's costing more and more. Hotel costs, certainly in this inflationary environment. So if you can, the further you can plan ahead and do some of your shopping and online travel and all that, and like on a Monday or a Tuesday, I think a lot of times they say is some of the best days to look at that online, not on the weekends when everybody's doing it. They know when people are buying airline tickets in bulk, and that's when they jack the prices up.
Yep. Chris, I've played that game a time or two, checked prices, and then came back. And all of a sudden, the prices were higher. And I know there is some ebb and flow of when those prices go up and down, but I also think that if you check once, they tag you and you come back and try again, and the price is automatically inflated a little bit.
Yeah, buddy, I tell you, I know Delta Airlines does that for sure.
Travel secrets here on your game plan for retirement as well with Chris McIntire. Now, Chris, we talk about the number one factor determining retirement success. And we have been doing this countdown to retirement, the series of guides that you have, the 10 steps to prepare, the 9 critical risks to address, the 8 moments to move your money, the 5 planning mistakes to avoid, the 3 biggest expenses. The number one on this list, as we are rounding home here, the number one most important factor determining retirement is income. The single financial risk that could make the biggest impact on your retirement is the instability of income. And I know that you, with your clients, really take a time to deep dive into how do we generate that consistent, dependable income stream into and throughout retirement. It is a big part of the process there at McIntire Retirement Services.
Yeah, sure is. And, it's kind of the foundation. If you're going to build a house, you got to start with the foundation. You don't put the roof on it first. So the foundation is solving the income equation there. What's coming in, what is needed, what's the shortfall, how do we structure, how to build, how to accomplish that shortfall. And, it's a little easier to do now in a rising interest rate environment, with dividend stocks, bonds at higher interest rates, CDs, the fixed annuity landscape, and even, some of the other annuities that we utilize in our practice that, pay that guaranteed income out over time. As the interest rate environment has gone up, so as those payout rates have gone up significantly. So, with insurance companies buy a lot of 10-year government bonds, essentially. So, when 10-year government bonds go from 1.5%, like they've been for the last decade, to 4.5%, 5%, well, it's a sweet spot for an insurance company, a pension fund, the bond market. So a lot of sweet spots here that work very well for the retirees. So, it's probably time to revisit some of those potential areas for yourselves. And we do that with our current clients even. Like, look, are we missing any opportunities now that, the interest rate environment is so much better than what we might have had 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago? And do we want to make any improvements? And we're working on that kind of a project we're doing right now.
We have not seen interest rates in this era for the last 15 or 20 years as high as they are, Chris. And certainly we are seeing much better interest rates, much better payout rates for that income, how much you can generate and withdraw from your portfolio in retirement. Much different environment than 2 or 3 years ago. Worth revisiting if somebody has even previously done an income planning exercise.
Yeah, no question about it, because you always want to look to see if you can make modifications to make some improvements, and who wouldn't want to create a little bit more income in a lot of situations, and, do we do that using dividends? Do we do that using interest? Do we do that using an annuity? And, how do we structure and balance and keep things in check, so to speak? And, because you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You don't want a portfolio that's 100% dividend paying stocks, because things can go wrong with individual stock exposure. You can look at mutual funds, you can look at ETFs, just a wide landscape out there, many different options. And, part of what we can do is remove the emotion of somebody saying, this is overwhelming to me and I'm not going to do anything. Right. The easiest answer a lot of times is no, because then, all right, well, I'm only dealing with the pain I've already got. Versus understanding, if I make a move, am I going to make a mistake? So, that's where we help. We go through and do the logic and the numbers, not the emotional aspect that, and how to get through the, we'll call it the vast majority of dis or misinformation that is on the internet for many people.
Chris, you mentioned money sitting on the sidelines. We've been talking about this improvement in interest rates. The FDIC actually has an interesting tool where you can look up how much money is in banks on deposit in any particular zip code. Wood County alone, $1.255 billion is sitting in 14 different commercial banking institutions. And that is money that could potentially be earning less than a competitive interest rate in this environment. Now, I know that people need banks for transactions. I know that they need their emergency account there, but $1.255 billion that could potentially be earning a little bit more, I think worth taking a look at, right?
Think of the impact that, even if half of that money was earning some interest and people took that interest and did something with it, I mean, that boosts the economy as well. That's an astonishing amount of money on the sidelines. And I think that kind of goes back to our earlier conversation at the start of the show that, hey, some of that money's, may eventually work its way into following some stocks, bonds, back into the market, if you will, so to speak. It's not all just going to go into CDs, and as the market goes up, more people are going to want to chase that elephant up the rope, if you will. Wrong analogy there, but that's what came to my mind.
Well, it also does seem, Chris, that human emotion takes over at a certain point in time, right? And as we do see that the market is moving upwards, people sort of get euphoric, fear of missing out, get a little greedy, and that's when more money gets dumped in. And when we see a year like 2022 or market volatility, people get scared and worried, and money comes out of the market. In other words, human nature basically does the exact opposite of what is proven to be successful investing behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's very easy to make emotional decisions. We're watching the news here all of a sudden, and we got, bless everybody over there in the Israeli conflict there, but boy, just that tears at your heart, and that's emotion, and that could say, well, you know what, we're on the precipice of World War III. I'm just going to leave my money sitting in cash, and look what's happened in the month of November, one of the best months we've had in a very long time. And if you're sitting on the sidelines and you miss that, then all of a sudden you get greedy and you want to come in at the, maybe toward the end of that. What, the average investor typically does is they make the emotional decisions instead of saying, look, I know this is bad. I got to stay in it for the long haul because my bonds are still paying interest. My dividend stocks are still paying dividends, and I'm either taking those dividends or I'm reinvesting those dividends and buying more shares when the stocks are down. And, buddy, I got to have those conversations every week with people, when things aren't going according to plan, and let them realize, look, everything you've got, because we build income portfolios by and large for a lot of our clients. And, so that's where that reliability on that dividend income is nice. So when the stock prices fall, hey, that dividend is still coming in. If you're using it for income, who cares what the price of the stock is? As long as it doesn't go to zero. And obviously, we monitor that, but even when bond prices fall, those bonds are still paying interest. And if you're in a mutual fund, when bonds mature, they replace them with bonds at a higher interest rate. So eventually those things come. But, everybody wants their statement to go up at the end of every month. Look, and it's not that easy. That's not how investing in an economic cycle works. Even though we all want it to, that's not how it works.
Yeah. Well, again, if you would like to review and look over your investment portfolio, see if you are in the right positions, see if you are allocated to take advantage of the growth in the market into the future, or if you are positioned to protect principal where possible, reduce or eliminate unnecessary risk, pick up the phone, give Chris McIntire a call, and you can reach McIntire Retirement Services, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Chris, last week on the program, we talked about an interesting phenomena for maybe higher income earners who are maxing out their 401k early, and how that could potentially cause you to miss out on some of the available match. Now, the Secure Act 2.0, another interesting provision in 2024, again, for maybe some of those higher income earners earning above 145,000, it will now be mandatory for those 50 and above making catch-up contributions to 401ks, that those catch-up contributions be made on the Roth side of the equation. Do you view this as a good thing or a bad thing? How do you weigh this and think this shakes out, Chris?
Yeah, I'm going to take a neutral approach to it. And, anytime I think anybody can get money into something that is tax-free, and if they make a decent wage and they have significant monies in their 401ks and traditional IRAs that will be taxable when they take that out, the more money, generally speaking, that they can have that's income tax-free, it is nice to have that for sure, because, a lot of people will say, well, I don't want to spend any of my money because I got to pay tax on it. I'm like, well, then why did you put it there in the first place? and look at a Roth IRA, and, just personally speaking, we have money in Roth IRAs, we have money in regular IRAs, we have money in regular investment accounts, and we have a lot of cash value in our life insurance policies. So, we spread it out that way so that we have the most tax-friendly, tax-efficient piece. It's not all in one bucket by any stretch of the imagination. And I think if we, I make these analogies at the classes that I teach there around the area, Peter, is, look, if you were going to start this process all over again and mail yourself money 30 years into the future, when you open that envelope, what tax rate do you want to pay on those dollars? And everybody says 0. Okay? Like, then why aren't you doing that?
Yep. When I read about this, Chris, when I looked at it, I guess the issue that I took was the mandatory nature of it. Basically deciding that you had to do that if you were going to take advantage. At the same time, I think you're correct, though. Having some tax diversity, different buckets, having any money that is tax-free for you there in retirement, probably nobody is going to kick themselves for making that decision once they get to retirement.
Yeah, no question about it, buddy. And, when you do this all day, every day, you see lots of different circumstances, and I have some heart-to-heart talks with a lot of the clients about, look, you need to enjoy it. You don't get to come back and do this all over again, and and many of them are so in trepidation almost about spending some of their dollars, and some people have far more than they would ever spend, and some of those are the ones that are the last ones that ever want to spend any of it. And, and my analogy is to them, look, when you pass it on, that's like winning the lottery for your children. In a lot of cases, they don't care about the taxes. They didn't earn the money in the first place. It's a whole different mindset. And I think most of us out here would agree that, look, the millennial generation that we see on TV protesting everything would be very happy to spend your IRA dollars if you don't do it yourselves.
Yeah. Nor do they have the financial discipline in many cases, Chris, that it took to build that wealth, to accumulate it, to amass it, to save it, to earn it in the first place. A lot of times there is that generational wealth transfer. Now, I will say this, that nobody wants Uncle Sam to be their biggest beneficiary, but there's a fine line, Chris, in what is enough income, right? Do we spend and run the risk of running out of money, or do we hoard and save and scrimp and do nothing so much that there's a huge pile left over that does get passed on? If that's your goal, if your children or grandchildren are financially responsible, maybe not a terrible thing, but you need to prepare the money for that transfer. If that's going to be the case, that takes careful planning. You also need to make sure that the people are prepared for the money that you've transferred value as well as values.
Yeah, that's a great analogy right there, and and to educate them on look, just the effort and whatnot that it took to accumulate what you've done, and and your anticipation, your expectations, and that's where people will might want to look at getting a trust so that they can understand and control the distributions to their children from the grave. If you just list Steve and Sally as beneficiaries of your IRA dollars, there's nothing prohibiting them from spending it all. Where if you had the McIntire Living Trust, for example, and it says, hey, if you inherit a life insurance policy or an IRA account, you're only going to get so much of this money over the next 10 years. You don't get it all, basically. So, that's where a trust sometimes can come into play and protect your children from themselves. And, in the cases where that needs to happen.
Well, again, we are talking with Chris McIntire, president and founder of McIntire Retirement Services. Chris, you make the offer for the service of a complimentary financial investment and retirement planning review, evaluation, and strategy session. You will help individual proactive planners and savers to better understand their investments, their different accounts, and to bring them all together into a cohesive picture, a plan for the financial future, moving forward, making progress, achieving those important financial goals. And ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to take advantage of that offer, that opportunity, that value, pick up the phone now and give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Chris, in the course of conducting those reviews of the investment and retirement accounts, a lot of times you are finding overexposure to risk, underperforming assets, higher than necessary fees. These are the things that you help people uncover in their financial plan.
Yeah, no question about it. And when we're doing the review process, we have some good partnerships out there with our friends at Brookstone Capital Management that can help us run the Morningstar analysis and look where somebody might have 6 different mutual funds, but they're basically the same thing in that regard. So, is there a lot of overlap, or are we overexposed to the large cap growth versus large cap value or something like that, as an example? And, many people have a retirement lifestyle mutual fund nowadays inside the 401ks. And, so we can break those down and say, okay, look, this might have been okay while you're working, and it's adjusting, getting you more into bonds than stocks as you get a little bit older, but there's different types of stocks that you might want to get into as you get older as well. The boring dividend payers, for example, aren't nearly as risky as, some of that high tech AI pieces that are out there right now. We use things like structured notes, covered call strategies, so many different things that are not available inside a 401k platform, or even in a lot of cases for you do-it-yourselfers out there. We have access to things that are exclusive to investment advisors that aren't necessarily exclusive to your average Vanguard do-it-yourselfer or Fidelity do-it-yourselfer, if you will.
Well, if you'd like to explore some of those tools, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to see how to bring all of the pieces together, I mentioned plan. A lot of people have tools. They have the different accounts, maybe a 401k, maybe an IRA, maybe a Roth, but actually bringing those all together into a true plan for retirement, your financial future, addressing unnecessary risk, optimizing Social Security, discussing taxes, how to control and minimize those, discussing creating income, how to get as high a dependable cash flow as possible. That's what a true plan will consist of. If you'd like to bring all those pieces together, Chris McIntire here, the resource for Northwestern Ohio, a independent fiduciary advisor and an experienced qualified professional, ladies and gentlemen. Pick up the phone. Having access to Chris and the team there at McIntire Retirement Services is your personal resource, such a value. 800-868-1194, the number to call to be in touch. 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Chris, to wrap up here, 2023 really took some unexpected turns and twists. I remember at the beginning of the year, everybody talked about the coming recession. We were certain to enter into a recession and see a continuation of the market decline from 2022. That didn't end up happening truly to any great extent. And I know you don't have that crystal ball, but are there any trends or predictions or foresight that you have for the year ahead in 2024 that give us an indication of what we could expect financially?
Yeah, and I would anticipate a pretty strong recovery in the bond market, especially if they eventually cut interest rates. So, the yield on 10-year Treasury bonds was about 5% at its peak. Okay. And then right about the beginning of December is down about 4.5%. So that's mortgage rates going down. So, we are trending in the right direction where we would have sustained economic recovery. Not that there aren't problems out there, credit card debt, used cars, the loans becoming defaulting. Those are problems that fall at the bottom end of the economic ladder. And will those start coming up the economic ladders? What we'll see. But I would anticipate maybe a couple of interest rate cuts going into 2024. Maybe one in the first quarter, more so later on in the year, in case if the economy does begin to stumble. And gas prices going down as well. Let's hope that trend continues, because that's like a tax cut.
Yeah. And certainly, of course, Chris, a few
Yep.
unexpected surprises in the year ahead. But regardless, bottom line, having that plan in place is going to be what provides for lasting financial confidence, regardless of what the market and the economy might bring.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And, a lot of geopolitical issues out there that are unforeseen, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to get that plan put together, if you'd like to start out the new year in the process of putting that plan together, now is the time. I know that the hustle and bustle of the holidays, everything gets busy, but don't put it on the back burner. Don't put it off to the side. Let's make it a priority to give the gift of lasting financial confidence for ourselves, for our spouses, for our family and loved ones. If you'd like to get started in that process, pick up the phone now. Give McIntire Retirement Services and Chris McIntire a call. 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. 800-868-1194. Chris, it is always a pleasure having you here on the program. Thank you for being the resource for savers and investors across Northwestern Ohio.
Hey, my pleasure, buddy. Everybody be safe out there. Take care. God bless.
Tune into Chris McIntire's full radio program and visit McIntireRetirementServices.com for many additional valuable resources, including other great episodes of Game Plan for Retirement with Chris McIntire. Be sure to subscribe.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.